Revolutionary greetings, comrades. It's a Red Sunday. We meet again for our political discussion. This week, in our Red Sunday, we are focusing on the workers in Zimbabwe. We have been reporting during the course of the week that the president of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers of Zimbabwe, Comrade Obed Masaraure, was arrested. He had traveled to receive an international award. On his return to Harare, he was arrested. The state is bringing back to life a case that happened in 2016 where one of the comrades died. Comrade Obed Msaraure says he was never in the scene. He was never arrested at the time, was never in the scene of the incident. May the soul of the dear comrade rest in peace. Comrade Obed Msaraure has appeared in court twice this past week. He will appear again in this coming week for bail application. He is held in custody in Harare. We call for his immediate release from jail. But we understand why the state is reacting in the manner in which it is reacting. The civil servants are planning an industrial action from the 20th of June to the 24th of June. It's a week-long industrial action. The unions in the education sector met and resolved that they will embark on industrial action to demand better working conditions and a living wage. Nurses have also said they will be taking part in the industrial action from the 20th to the 24th of June 2022. In response, the regime has awarded a 100% increase, and this has been rejected by the workers. It is not enough. Teachers in Zimbabwe are paid very little. So we support the industrial action by the trade union movement in the public sector. And we call on all progressive forces to give solidarity to the unions organizing in the public sector in Zimbabwe. We also call on international solidarity around the intimidation, the harassment of union leaders like Comrade Obed Masaraure and the other trade unionists who have been harassed by the regime. As communists and progressive forces, we must give solidarity to these comrades. An injury to one is an injury to all. We also have Ntwaga's Republic Party activist wine custody. We call for their immediate release as well. We spoke about them that this is a fabricated case, a political case, and they must be released. We must, of course, which we will discuss later on in the following videos, we will discuss the role of a trade union movement. Want to define what is a trade union movement. It's important that we do so from next week onwards to discuss this question. What is the role of a trade union movement, or rather, what is a trade union movement? Why is it important for comrades or workers to join a trade union movement? What is its role? How does it assist its members? How do you get assistance when you become a member of a trade union? What is the role of the membership or members of a trade union? These are the issues that we are going to be discussing in future videos. We are doing this because we are very clear on the nature of our struggle, not only in Zimbabwe but internationally. As the Communist Manifesto says, I quote, "The history of all in there to exist in society is the history of class struggles, close quote. We want to understand, as we'll be having this discussion, what is the role of a trade union movement in relation to this class struggle that we are engaged in. We are raising this because the struggle of the workers, particularly in Zimbabwe, has been hijacked. We have dealt with this question in the program of the Zimbabwe Communist Party as adopted at its first Congress in December 2019 in Bulawayo. We demonstrated in the program how the struggle of the working class was hijacked during the struggle for national liberation. And we also demonstrated how the struggle of the working class was hijacked when the ZANU-PF government introduced the Economic Structural Adjustment Program in 1991. So these are critical issues that we will want to focus into when we discuss the role of trade union movements. Largely because our country is preparing for elections. And what is clear is that because you have these different forces that are raising their own issues broadly in Zimbabwe, in the body politics of Zimbabwe, these broader forces or different class formations have their issues to deal with, to address, or they have issues that they are not happy with the present ruling party. The danger for trade unionists and workers is that in our struggle in completing the liberation of Zimbabwe, we might find ourselves entering into some unholy alliances with the reactionary forces in the name of a regime change. It's important that as communists we should raise this question. That in our attempt or in our struggle to complete the liberation of Zimbabwe so that the commanding heights of the economy are placed in the hands of society as a whole, we do not find ourselves entering into unholy alliances with counter-revolutionaries in the name of a regime change agenda. It's important. This is why we will need to discuss the role of trade unions, because not all trade unions are progressive. Some trade unions are funded by the West. Some trade unions are funded by NGOs, which are created by the West, and they will receive money for their programs. And once you are a trade union movement, you receive money from the West. Naturally, you will advance their agenda. Now, we are in a crisis, in a political and an economic crisis. The danger is that as we try to resolve this crisis, we'll end up joining hands with the stooges of imperialist forces. We must guard against this. We know that some in our country will be saying, as long as ZANU-PF is gone, we will deal with the devil that will come after ZANU-PF. No. We must defeat ZANUism as a political philosophy that in some cases finds fertile ground in what we see as the alternative. We are not in the struggle of changing faces. We are not in the struggle of changing political parties or changing faces. We are engaged in a class struggle. And this, therefore, says that the workers and peasants must take over the state in Zimbabwe. So we'll be elaborating on this question. But we thought it is necessary that as workers in Zimbabwe embark on a week-long industrial action, we must raise this point. That we should not find ourselves as trade unionists, as revolutionaries, walking side by side with the stooges of imperialist forces. We should not find ourselves receiving funding from NGOs created by the West. We should not find ourselves walking side by side with counter-revolutionaries. Ours is a class struggle. And in our own conditions, first and foremost, we must build a national democratic economy. We have elaborated on this point. Because if we are not careful, we will be used by imperialist forces to advance their agenda. Because what imperialist forces want is to take advantage of those that are seen to be disgruntled or are organized disgruntled and take advantage of that. Fund them and begin to direct their programs. And this should not happen to progressive trade unions in Zimbabwe or in the rest of the continent. We have dealt in previous videos about the role of imperialism in the continent, especially when we're talking about Central and West Africa. So it is important, comrades, that as we give solidarity or as we appeal for solidarity to progressive forces across the globe, let us reject any association with NGOs that are created by the West in our country. Let us isolate ZANU-PF from the progressive world. ZANU-PF is not revolutionary. It has never been revolutionary. We've previously dealt with this question of how it was created in 1963. It has never been revolutionary. But the posture that was taken by the late President Robert Mugabe post-1998 or during the Congo War, ZANU-PF won many friends in the progressive world because ZANU-PF presented itself as anti-imperialist. But we know that they are counter-revolutionary as we have demonstrated previously. So we must isolate ZANU-PF from the progressive world. But we cannot isolate ZANU-PF from the progressive world when we then allow the leadership of the trade union movement to walk side by side with the stooges of imperialist forces. The Communist Manifesto, as written by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, is very clear on the relationship between communists and the proletariat. It is very clear on the political home of workers and trade unions. So it's important that we raise this point, that in our bid to remove the sitting government through a democratic process, will usher in stooges of imperialist forces. And we have defined ours as a struggle against imperialism, a struggle against the looting class. It doesn't matter the following that the looters have. I saw them in Pigit. In a mass rally, many people turned up. It does not matter how many people are following them or they are their members. It does not matter how many masses are rallying behind stooges of imperialist forces. It doesn't matter. Ours is to educate. Ours is to raise class consciousness of the workers through their organized formations. So we should not adopt this position to say, no, because this political formation has a large following behind it, let us join. No. We must always remember that we are engaged in class struggle. Yes, we can discuss tactical questions. We will indeed later on discuss tactical questions. But when we discuss tactical questions, we should avoid being won over by these forces. So in the coming days, in the coming weeks, we will be discussing the role of a trade union movement. Why it is important that the workers must belong to a trade union movement. Its role in the class struggle. We will examine the types of trade unions because there are different types of trade unions. Some are liberal in character, some are progressive. So comrades, to our international comrades, international friends, we request you to highlight the suffering of the workers in Zimbabwe, the intimidation of the leaders of the trade union movement in Zimbabwe. Please use all your platforms, all your connections to raise this awareness. The trade union movement is under attack in Zimbabwe. An injury to one is an injury to all. We do not expect that the trade union movement in the SADC region will keep quiet when the leadership of the trade union in Zimbabwe is under attack. We do not think that the trade union movements in the rest of the continent or international will keep quiet when the trade union movement in Zimbabwe is under attack. Workers in the public sector will participate in an industrial action from the 20th to the 24th. It's a week long. The state is using its machinery to intimidate the workers. We condemn such. And we call on you as international comrades to condemn such actions by the Zimbabwean state. An injury to one is an injury to all. Forward to international solidarity, forward. Amandla, comrades. Thank you so much.